He's the one person in prison no one dares to mess with. He had already killed 28 people with his bare hands before he entered the prison. Here not only the prisoners are afraid of him, even the guards are afraid to mess with him. He is Kota Stinson. Kota was kept in a special cell. On this day, a new prisoner arrived in the prison. He is Danny, the former captain of the English soccer team. He can kick a car with one kick. But such a super soccer star was brought to this prison for drunk driving and assaulting a police officer. He will serve 3 years in this prison. As soon as he arrived at the prison, there was a large crowd of inmates around him. This super soccer star has played 73 times for his country, but he betrayed his country by deliberately losing his last game. The inmates could not resist beating him up. Of course, the one who hated him the most was the prison's David. He had bet everything he had on him to win, but in the end, he lost all his money because Danny played a fake game. David said that he would never let him leave the prison alive. Not only the prisoners do not like him, even the guards cannot resist beating him and arranged a worse job for him. A few days later the warden suddenly summoned him. In fact, the warden also set up a team of his own and wanted to invite him to be the coach of the soccer team. He also wanted his team to play in the soccer league one day. Obviously, this task is too difficult. Danny decisively refused. It turns out that long before the warden summoned him, the prison chief had already talked to him, threatening him with death if he dared to take over as the soccer team coach. But this also angered the warden. Danny was put in solitary confinement. What to do? Danny was desperate. At that moment, a fellow inmate came and told him to set up a team of prisoners to play a game with the prison guards. This not only trained the guards but also did not offend them. Obviously, this was a good idea. Both wardens were satisfied. But now how to form a team? None of the inmates here could play soccer. But some of David's men seem to have some soccer talent. If we can get them to join the team will be a good choice. While Danny was having a headache, he was attacked by 2 people. They were obviously David's men. He was about to resist when the guards rushed in. He hastily covered the dagger with a towel and said he had accidentally cut his face by shaving. He helped 2 of his men cover up the crime. David saw how righteous he was and agreed to lend his boys to him. But there is one condition. That is, Danny must win in the game. Danny agreed. Now the player problem is solved. But now there is still a goalkeeper missing. Who should we call? The black inmate suggested the man with very little hair. But would he really want to play? This man wants to form a prison team and threatens to beat the guards. But all that's missing is a good goalie. He approaches Kota and wants him to be the goalie. At first Kota refused. But as soon as he heard that it was a game with the prison guards, he immediately agreed. The soccer team is now complete. The next step was training. But the players are in a mess. And at this rate, they can't beat the guards. Danny decided to teach them some unique techniques. But this is not a regular move. The first move is to accidentally step on the opponent's foot. Obviously, this is very effective. Move number 2. Pretend to pick up the guy and grab his armpit hair. The rest of the tricks were similar but all very vicious. Captain Danny, in order for them to play steadily on the field, let them lift dumbbells to train arm strength. Take them to pick up feces to practice endurance. And look at the prison guard team. They move neatly and are well trained. The prisoners and the guards are not on the same level of strength. Here David approached the warden. These 2 have always loved to bet on football. He told the warden to bet heavily on the guards, so he could make a lot of money. After that he approached Danny and said he had put his entire fortune on the inmates. If you lose this game, not only I will not live, you will not live either. This is no longer just a soccer game, but a fight for life and death. Soon this game of life and death will begin. On one side is the experienced prison guards, and on the other side is the inmates who have no combat experience. Although they are only the most insignificant prison inmates, the most inferior lineup, but they still want to win the game, because if they win the game, it will be an honor they will never forget. Then they can prove that they are not useless prisoners. All 11 players were ready to play. Countless inmates cheered them on. Danny's team carried all their hopes and glory. Soon the players were in position. The battle of life and death was about to begin. This is definitely the most heroic goalkeeper I've ever seen. As long as he is there, the opponents can't get in. If a ball dares to step into his territory, they will all be overturned in an instant. But it was the pitch, so he held back. As he pushed the ball into his half, a player came over and tripped him. Kota is not happy. Let's see how the inmates play. He pretends to help someone, but then he stomps on them and punches them before the ref is ready. There are so many fouls such as hitting with the ball and stepping on the opponent's foot that the referee can't pay attention to them. The captain was even more ruthless. kicking the opponent in the middle again and again. This prison guard guy is really unlucky. At this point, the inmates in the field are very happy with the situation. One of the players successfully passed the ball to the captain Danny. He saw the right moment to take a kick. The ball is in. 1 point for the prisoners. The whole cell block cheers. But only the warden was not happy, because he had bet everything he had on the guards, and if he lost, he would have nothing. At halftime, he found Danny to make him deliberately let off in the second half of the game, or else he would never get out of prison. Danny, who was back on the field, had lost all his momentum and was no longer working with his teammates, but the prisoners were in good shape. One of the players scored another goal, so Danny faked an injury and left the field, and because he left the field, his teammates had lost their momentum. The guards scored a goal and the score was soon tied. Now either team needed only one more point to win the game. Danny looked at the inmates on the field who were about to lose the game and then looked at the warden's smug face, so he decided that he would die in prison before he would let them win. Back on the field, the inmates reignited their fight. Strangely enough, no matter how much he shouted, his teammates refused to pass the ball to him. In the final moments of the game, his teammate threw a long pass that went halfway across the field. Luckily, Danny caught the ball. He was able to shoot the ball, but he suddenly stopped. Instead, he passed the ball to his teammate who could even miss the goal with a slight push. The teammate went up and kicked the ball hard. They won. All the inmates in the stadium were in a frenzy. They beat the guards. Don't the most inferior team deserve to win? They proved it with their strength. But the warden was not happy. He swore he would destroy Danny. But by now not only had the warden sided with Danny, but David and his brothers were there to protect him.